When you think of scary, disturbing content creators online, who do you think of? My mind immediately goes over to Nova Online and another individual that I've never covered in this channel, which is really surprising. This was before my time here on YouTube. I'm sure you guys are familiar or have at least heard the name ShadMan. This is one, if not probably the most disgusting individual who gathers some fame. I mean, this guy's on a whole different level when it comes to disturbing, creepy individuals online. In my opinion, I think he surpasses Nova Online and a lot of other TikTok creeps and even some predators. I mean, you know, you could criticize them all you want, but at least they have never drawn multiple minors in disgusting ways, doing disgusting acts. And I'm talking people who are below the age of 10, if not younger. I don't know the whole lore behind ShadMan. I know he's drawn Keemstar's daughter before in a super gross way, and I know he's also drawn the actress from the Logan movie in a very not safe for work drawing back when she was what, 13, 14 years old. Long story short, it's one of those people that if you ever stumble upon, you want to turn around immediately and go the opposite direction. Wherever he's heading, you go the other way. Over the last 2 days, this video kept getting recommended to me, and it's by this YouTuber. He made this video called The Aftermath of ShadMan. It's 47 minutes long. We're not gonna watch it all because I don't want to show this guy's full content. It's gonna be linked below in case you guys want to see more of it. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with him. I'm a very casual person when it comes to just who he is. Like, yeah, I know the popular disgusting things he's done, but I don't know too much of him, and it's been years since I've heard anything about him. So with that said, get your popcorn, get your candy, get your G Fuels ready, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's just get right into it.
Within the annals of internet lore, there are few individuals who have been branded with the title of Menace. But the individual that's the subject of today's video has more than lived up to that title. It's not exactly a secret that when compared to real life, the internet has a far higher tolerance for behavior that would otherwise be deemed offensive or inappropriate. So for someone to not only be condemned, but blacklisted from a majority of the internet for artwork they created, they must be a uniquely disturbing case of either taking a joke way too far, or an instance of when one's darkest and most depraved desires can no longer be contained to the rotting annals of their mind and spill forth into the world.
I mean, I don't know if this is a super hot, controversial take, but I think anyone that draws minors in a not safe for work way, they should definitely get the electric chair. How do you even excuse that? You have to take the time to draw whatever you're drawing, and just thinking about it, it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, how fucked up does your brain have to be in order to see Keemstar's daughter, who's like 7 years old at the time, and be like, you know what? I want to sexualize her. Like, you know how perverted and messed up you have to be in order to think that? I think his exile of any community he's ever been part of is 1,000,000,000% warranted.
Meet Shadai Prajan, aka ShadMan. Whilst most discussion of ShadMan concerns his artwork depicting characters of dubious age, many are unaware of his more recent history, featuring his arrests, drug abuse, and convictions for violent crimes. There are a lot of videos already made about his controversial art, but in this video I'm going to try to gather together every scrap of information that exists on his life and try to paint a comprehensive story, stretching from his childhood through to his career as an artist and subsequent downfall. More so than any other individual I've spoken about, Shad has been incredibly careful when it comes to revealing information about his private life. This cautiousness was at first thought to be due to his own shyness and preference for personal privacy, but as more information emerged about him, it became clear that a key factor of his secrecy was to ensure that his real identity couldn't be associated with the antics of his online, self-described, villainous alter ego. This video will obviously touch on some off-kilter topics, but I'm assuming you're already aware of that. Okay, let's just dive in. Shadai Prajan was born September 9th, 1990, somewhere in Switzerland, to a Swiss mother and American father. His dad, Thaddeus, had emigrated from Louisiana and was actually a semi-well-known reggae singer, with one of his songs having some interesting
Like, imagine your parents do all of this work to take you to a better country, or at least try to, you know, get yourself a better life, and this is what you end up doing. Like, I'm looking at a picture of him, and he looks fucking unhinged. I don't even want to know how many substance he was on while taking this picture. And the sad thing is, from what I've seen, when he's not being a complete freak and he's actually drawing normal things, he's actually quite talented. It's not like he's this untalented retard. No, he could actually draw. all, but he decides to draw the most insane, unhinged things possible for shock value, for attention, because from what I'm hearing, he probably never got any growing up. It's unfortunate that someone with that amount of talent ended up the way he ended up. I think a lot of things when it comes to people like this, but I don't know, it's a shame that he let all of this talent go to waste to be edgy. And I have no problem being edgy from time to time, but when the line between edginess and just being a flat out pedophile gets kind of blurred, that's kind of like, well, that's kind of an issue. Just a little bit, just a tiny little bit.
Raised in an incredibly religious household, with his father banning anything that could be considered ungodly, and allegedly using physical violence as a punishment.
Where you get beaten to know that the fear of God lives in you. That's what my dad used to do to me. I turned out pretty okay.
One such beating is reported to have taken place following Shad receiving poor grades at school. Shad's academic struggles could be due in part to the fact that his family would frequently move around the country.
So we never stayed in a single place long enough to gather any lasting friends at the time.
With him citing his family's frequent relocation as a reason why he struggled to make friends.
In situations like that, your siblings become your best friends. It's safe to say we're all very close.
We know that Shad had a handful of siblings, however the exact number is still unknown. It's been deduced he has at least one brother, and Shad himself has admitted to having a younger sister.
One thing made me start to grow distant from my little sister, which is my interest in drawn and animated pornography.
Bruh. I don't know what to say. Just throw him in the fire already. No, I don't need to hear anything else. I could scrap this video. That's all I needed to know. Just carry him unwillingly and throw him into the fire. Throw him into a fucking volcano from a helicopter. This is the kind of individual that you don't give a last meal to. You know what I mean? You don't even ask. And if they do want one, you just kind of ignore it and give him his least favorite food of all time. So that's the last thing he eats when he passes away. Some of you may know that I have a younger sister, and I just can't imagine doing this or even thinking about it for a second. You know how fucked up you need to be in order to start thinking like this? How fried your brain has to be in order to see this? And this is why I really don't say that I like anime, because for a lot of people, when they hear, oh, I like anime, they think of people like ShadMan. Not all of us are like that. Some of us just like Dragon Ball or Naruto. Not all of us are this freaky. He could legitimately find a cure for cancer, and I would still want him to be thrown into the fire just for this comment alone.
Throughout his lonely childhood, a young Shadai would discover his love for art through the medium of video games, and it's here that he would begin to draw, inspired by the characters and worlds of the games he played. The young Shad would also develop another passion, coding and web design. He would combine these two passions when he created a website that would one day become shadbase.com. Shad would use this little website to show off his art, using it as a digital portfolio and also a testament to his coding abilities. After leaving school, Shadai would decide to pursue a career in game design.
And I thought, like, it'd be really cool if I could make video games. Because I loved video games.
Yeah.
However, his lackluster educational qualifications meant he was unable to apply to many game design courses in the country. But through a stroke of luck, one university, the F&F School for Art and Media Design in Zurich, would see his online artwork, and based solely on the raw talent he demonstrated there, decide to give Shad a chance by offering him a place on one of their game design courses starting the following academic year.
I was completely undereducated, but sometimes they let people in when they think, I see potential in this guy, and they let him in anyway. But next to making my portfolio, I also have an online portfolio. So I made this website called shadbase.com, and I used it as my online portfolio.
Yeah. Just imagine you're one of the teachers and the guy sends his website to see his portfolio, to see what he can do. And the first thing the teacher sees, it's like drawn titties all over the screen.
And I just put up like some of my work I've done, like some of my like amateur like digital paintings and stuff, and I sent them in a portfolio. They've looked into it and thought like, we'll give you a chance. We usually don't do this, but we'll give you a chance. After summer, you can start.
With a place secured at university, finally studying something he was passionate about, Shad was left with a final few months to enjoy the end of his teenage years and prepare for the transition into adult life. But it's what he did in these few months that would change the course of his life forever. Shad himself states that during these months he found himself incredibly lonely, and in his loneliness he would begin to explore himself. No, not like that. He would explore his mind and create artwork of the not safe for work variety. Oh, maybe he did do some exploration.
The whole summer went by, kind of started to get the courage to look deep inside, like the darkest corners of myself. The corners where I never would have seen myself, and I kind of explore those. and like see that I have a friend in there.
Yeah.
Explore that and like do some drawings which were very questionable morally.
What set his work apart from the creamy tidal wave of not safe for work art already on the internet was the indeterminate age of his drawn characters. Later on his website, he would slap a big ol' all characters are over 18 even if stated otherwise disclaimer. But I'm sure most would agree simply having the need to put such a disclaimer up like that is a pretty big indicator you're entering some highly sketchy territory.
No, that is so insane. Like, imagine there's like I'm sure, like, imagine there's just like a drawing of like someone that looks like just imagine there's a drawing of someone that looks like, I don't know, they're 5 years old. He's like, no, they're 18 years old. As a matter of fact, they're not 18 years old. They're 18 billion years old. They're just a vampire. They just look extremely young. Trust, they're 18 billion years old. They're not 3 or 4 or 5, even though they look extremely young, but just trust me, you know, everyone here is above 18. I'm gonna call cap on that. I'm sure most of the drawings here were like 14 and down, and I'm being pretty generous here. I don't know, man, like common sense tells me there was some highly inappropriate images on this website. And like the guy in the video says, if you have to specify this, I swear to God, everyone here is 18 plus. Just trust, even if specified otherwise. So even if I say the girl's like 11, she's 18. Nah. Can we please not do this again?
Shad describes this period of artistic exploration as him simply learning to accept himself and creating art that was a true expression of his own abilities. But as would soon be made apparent, not everyone shared his artistic perspective. He would post all this art to shadbase.com in a separate section from his professional portfolio.
Like, hey, I'll just upload them to this portfolio site I made. Make like an extra category and start uploading a little more alternative stuff.
Yeah.
But still just as accessible to anyone who wished to view it. During this time, Shad would first make contact with another up-and-coming online creative, Corey Beck, better known as SpazKid. This was prior to SpazKid's explosion in popularity that came with his issue animated series, but this connection nonetheless would prove invaluable later on. At the end of summer, Shad would begin his university career in game design, but after a few weeks, Shad would be called into a meeting by university staff, where they would bring up what was now viewable on Shad's website.
I get like this weird email.
Oh no.
And it's like, can you meet us on Friday? Can you please meet us at this specific address? I'm like, leads me into this building. We go up an elevator. We go into like this secluded room. They broke the bomb and said, we found some stuff on your website, which is highly illegal. And we cannot allow you back on the campus.
Oh wow.
Because you're a menace.
Okay, I feel I don't need to bring up the logistical issues of putting alongside your professional portfolio, but having that be extremely risque, like even by standards. Like, yeah, the university wasn't gonna hear you out. Like, I beat my edging PR all the time, but I don't stick it on my fucking LinkedIn. When retelling the story,
This is legitimately what I was saying. Who in their right mind would post their insane, despicable, unhinged, loco? What other words can I come up with within 4 seconds? Who would have thought that having your disgusting fantasies on a separate tab right next to your portfolio would be a bad idea? At this point, I'm beyond convinced that this guy's like brain dead, like just straight up. How do you not see this coming? At least make a separate website, or I don't know, you're going to university. Maybe don't get too freaky yet. Maybe wait till you at least graduate. I don't know why I'm giving basic, normal advice to someone that will never hear it in a million years. It's like, yeah, dude, no shit. Like, imagine your school calling you and being like, yo, yeah, what you're posting is illegal. How about you get the fuck out of my building, dude?
Shad appears to be very cautious to not actually describe what the university found, and obviously painting himself as this edgy rock and roll badass, whose Sigma demeanor sent chills down the spines of all the university bigwigs.
It's also kind of like with my whole appearance and stuff at the time, like I was quite into like heavy metal and stuff, and that also was like for people like those, like kind of like conservative art professors, was a kind of a red flag.
Very kind of
because of the whole like satanic themes and like the glorification of violence.
Nah, dude, you're just a pedophile. There's no other way to say it. I'm just gonna have to say it again. You're just a pedophile, little dude. I think this is probably the worst combination ever. An edgelord heavy metal listener who is a pedophile. Like, at that point, you are truly God's bravest soldier.
Such a nut.
Yes, Shad, I'm sure at your art university you were the only one who dressed in an alternative style.
Raw time.
Take it easy, babe.
Shad's primary defense seemed to be that all of his not safe for work stuff was totally unrelated to his university work.
Them like telling me that it proved that they're nothing but an agents of treachery themselves.
Right.
by like denying my right to express myself in my own free time, completely independent,
disconnected from what
I do in school.
It was stuff he did in his free time.
Yeah, being a pedophile and a disgusting creep on your free time, and then the teacher's kicking you out for it, is not because they're trying to oppress you. Where's my freedom of speech? I just wanted to draw naked 11-year-olds, guys. That's all I wanted to do. And these bozo conservatives, they're trying to take a YN down. Can you guys believe that? They don't let me draw naked 11-year-olds, huh? Like, they're trying to control me, guys. They're just out to get me. It's obviously not because I'm some degenerate fucking freak. It's because of my leather jacket and the fact that I dress a little weird. Alright, bro. Whatever helps you cope.
And therefore the university had no business looking into it. I like to turn women into chandeliers, but that's on my time, University of Slough. Despite the stellar defense of none of your business, Shad was ordered to gather his shit and leave the university. He was also instructed to hand himself in to authorities.
The thing is, I don't believe his story he told. His story about getting kicked out of his original country. I always took it as an exaggerated statement about he probably was just kind of a creep and they threw him out. And he had to make it like, I was so badass. I was so incredible. Because have you guys not noticed that a lot of internet personalities really like to talk up how badass they are? And some of the reason that they bring in these things is to reaffirm how fucking cool they are to you. They need to remind you. I just took it as him exaggerating. I didn't buy it. I never believed it.
To top this all off, when taking the train back home, Shad was stopped by police, where they found he was in possession of a large knife. Shad would make it home.
Alright, pause. What the fuck is this fate? Unk has never had drip in his life. He kind of dresses like an edgy Redditor, whatever a Redditor thinks being a badass looks like.
Went to the police, where he was then interrogated about his art. For these drawings, and on top of the earlier knife possession, he was fined 2,800 Swiss pounds. After all this, Shad would accept that he was unlikely to pursue any serious creative career.
I was definitely thinking I'm not going to do anything creative for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not going to do enough for a job. I'm not going to do it. I told myself I'm going to just quit.
You thought you were just going to do like a desk job?
Yeah, I just thought like I'll just come with me. Like I'll just... But I did not consider that would ever do like anything creative.
With no real goals or directions, Shad would decide to get his mandatory military service out the way as soon as possible. Shad would join the military and was assigned as an artillery tankman. Even in something as famously fraternal as the military, Shad would fail to make any long-term connections. But his comrades would quickly come to notice and respect his artistic ability, with him actually designing an emblem for his tank that wound up placed on the side of the vehicle.
See, here's the tanks. It's a bit of a... It's just Instagram fucking downscales this shit. But yeah, this was our tank battalion. And yes, I did make the logo here on the side too. All the tanks had them.
I know these vehicles aren't technically in service, but if World War III does break out in Europe, there is a not impossible chance that someone may be killed by a ShadMan branded tank. But seriously, his sketches from this time, in my opinion, most clearly highlight the insane talent he has for drawing. Out of all the artists I've covered from Newgrounds, I'm confident in saying that Shad exhibits the most raw artistic ability out of any one of his peers. It's also why I don't subscribe to later criticism thrown his way that he can't draw or was never a talented artist. Like, the man has talent. After a few months training and...
Yeah, that's something that I was talking about earlier. I do think he's talented. It's like, he might be a freak and, cellmates with EDP and Diddy, but he could draw. It's one of those things where you see someone with potential and they just wasted all their potential by being a fucking degenerate gooner because they couldn't control themselves.
Everything and making a big spectacle out of it.
This is also why I only have like 3 fucking photos to use as stock when I want to talk about the guy. Oh yeah, just to make this even more convoluted, there's some confusion over who the real Shad is under many of the photographed characters. Many have gone to cons, etc. and claim to be the real Shad, despite not being him, and Shad has intentionally played into this, confirming false sightings, so it's hard to tell what's a real ShadMan and what's an imposter. It's also why you see a lot of people under the false impression that Shad was actually this super buff guy in real life. I'm actually pretty sure I know who the buff ShadMan imposter is, but we'll get to him later. Shortly after deciding to go it solo, Shad would decide to move to Canada. His reasons for leaving Switzerland aren't 100% known, but a popular theory is that he was kicked out of his home after drawing porn of his mother. Doing something like this would seem like justifiable grounds to disown.
Pause. Please tell me that I'm not tripping. Did I hear that correctly?
Out of his home after drawing porn of his mother.
So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. I don't have any funny haha one-liners for that one, so Jesus. This is low-key the best condom ad I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
In May 2016, Ian Hecox, aka iDubbbz, would publish content cop Keemstar. And in the aftermath of the video, and for the rest of the year, Keemstar was more or less public enemy number 1 on the internet. Also that year, the election. In November, during polling, Shad would announce that if Donald Trump won the presidency, he would draw Keemstar's daughter. Oh shit. It's hard to tell if the entire promise was a joke, and Shad, like many others, didn't actually anticipate Trump winning. But regardless, shortly after the results of the election were announced, Shad would produce a collage of Keemstar's daughter, in various non-pornographic but still very suggestive poses. Shortly after hearing of the image, Michael Keem would publicly announce that he was planning to take legal action against Shad. Nowadays, people cite this as one of the worst things Shad has done, but I think people forget back then just how much hatred there was for Keemstar, and the fact this was one of the few things that actually got to Keemstar. There was a very sizable crowd that supported Shad during this time. A few days later, Colossal is Crazy, who was then friends with Keemstar, would tweet about his disdain for the image and the other art on shadbase.com. Following these tweets, Shad would allow Colossal onto one of his streams, where he pressed Shad about the morals of making such a picture. The discussion would conclude with Shad admitting to Colossal he had gone too far.
Let me just be very clear. I was not calling you a paedophile. What I did was say what you did by drawing this picture, putting it in context on your website with a bunch of other pictures of little naked girls was...
Totally understand. You understand that it was obviously part of like the controversial nature of the picture to post it under such context.
It started off as a controversial joke.
Yes.
And you didn't go through with it.
I would have never.
Yeah, it's pretty f***ing weird.
I don't know if I truly agree with Colossal. Like, if you're drawing little kids, what are you? Like, straight up, what are you? If that's all you do, not once or twice, I don't know how many times he's done this before. How do you not think that's fucking pedophile behavior? There's so many things that I want to say, but I cannot risk getting this video taken down. I mean, just talking about ShadMan, it's like already risky as is. Like, the second he did this, he should have been kicked out from every single community. And even prior to this, the fact that he got this far is quite impressive.
All agree, and I think you're kind of a weird guy.
I totally am. I that's my thing. I
I'm
totally
sure you're
am.
a nice person, but you're a bit of a weird.
I would not argue with that.
The discussion was incredibly amicable, and at the end, Shad would announce he was going to take it down. I think it's interesting that on Twitter, Shad will defend his art to the death, but as soon as he's put in a situation where he actually has to engage in dialogue with another, he folds almost immediately. Like, just time how long it takes for him to throw all of his anything is permissible in art beliefs out the window.
But I do feel like there are sexual connotations regarding that picture. Would you agree?
Totally agree. Yes, totally agree. Colossal, I respect you like a hell of a lot. And just like man to man, if you think it would be better for me to take it down, I would take it down just out of respect to you.
If you could do that, I think that would be wonderful.
You know, I'm gonna go do that right fucking now. I'm gonna take it down out of respect to...
The full thing is crazy. And I think it was the right thing to do, right? You already made the drawing. You know, it's out there. It's the internet. Once it's out there, it's no longer yours. It's going to be up there forever. Rare, and I mean extremely rare, ShadMan W. But the full thing is crazy. Like, on Twitter, he's, you know, talking all of this. Being like, I won't bow down to everyone. And I am an extremely edgy person. And, you know, fuck everyone. But when he gets confronted, he's like, dude, I'll do it right now. Right now. If you want me to, I'll do it right now. If you want me to give you head while I'm deleting this, I'll do it right now.
I think this whole event is pretty telling of who Shad is. When hiding behind his ShadMan persona online, he had no problem engaging in highly technical debate to justify what he was doing. And you could observe this in real time upon when he returned to Twitter after the stream ended. As soon as he was back in the safety of his persona and shielded by his followers and defenders, he backtracked on his agreement with Colossal and put the image back up, albeit with the disclaimer that he was only doing this to prove it wasn't CP. What? And of course, despite the negative attention he was receiving, Shad also experienced a huge boost in engagement and followers. Seeing this, Shad likely deduced that the fastest way to keep the attention on him was to continue down this road of fostering controversy. Morals or minors be damned. And so, he set his eyes on a new target. Less than a week after the Keemstar incident, he basically did the exact same thing again. This time with 12-year-old commentary YouTuber Lieutenant Corbus, who was trending towards the end of 2016 for her young age and foul-mouthedness.
I guess I almost got injured because I know I didn't almost die.
Yo, I remember this girl. I never really watched her, but back when I was heavily into commentary, I remember this YouTuber. And she was getting crazy views. It was legitimately a 12-year-old doing commentary and getting millions of views. 2015 to 2016 is such a fever dream. You could legitimately have 12-year-olds doing commentary and making thousands of dollars. The good old days.
These images were arguably even more explicit than the Keemstar ones, and once again, a wave of discourse began concerning Shad and his motives. At this point, the conversation over on his page on Kiwi Farms had fully transitioned from mild disdain into full-on spiteful documentation. What can be observed here is Shad descending down into a cycle of trying to maintain relevancy at whatever cost. By branding himself as the edgelord who draws offensive shit, he had to keep pushing the limits of what he was drawing to keep attention on himself. And so fictional characters and even fictional children weren't enough anymore, and it would be his next project involving a real child that would push his career over the edge. Oh yeah, at the very end of 2016, ex-MrBeast friend Ava, then going by Chris Tyson, tweeted out this. There's surely no way this could become relevant later. On March the 1st, 2017, the film Logan would release, starring the then 11-year-old Daphne Keane as X-23. Shad, prior to the film's release, would make multiple jokes on his Discord about his apparent joke attraction to the underage actress. It's just a joke, you guys. It was a prank. We were just fooling. Actually, from many accounts, Shad's Discord was a very sus place, with various issues including minors being allowed into 18+ servers, mods abusing their power, and various unverified reports of incredibly unsavory conversations taking place there. The Discord has since been wiped, but we can assume it was an absolute den of epic, edgy humor. My sense of humor is a little dark for your taste. I make jokes about black people and mass shootings. I don't think you're ready for it, Bakuga. A few days after the film's release, Shad would upload his Daphne Keane series, featuring the actress getting... With art he had done before, the depravity was in the eye of the beholder. But here, it was front and center. It shot past the classification of porn and into the realm of sadistic fantasy. Shadai's defense for this piece was that the character of X-23 was a fictional character.
Bruh, just yourself at that point. You know, go to your local Home Depot, buy 2 or 3 things, a ladder, a rope, and well, I'll leave the rest to your imagination. How could anyone defend this? I know this is what killed his career, but it's like the fact that anyone was supporting him after he drew Keemstar's daughter, and then after he drew that 11 or 12-year-old commentary channel is insane to me. How could anyone back that up? And even prior to all of that, just hearing the stories that he was telling, how did no one go after him for that?
In October of 2021, Shadai was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, with his hearing set for November 19th. The exact details of why he was arrested are a complete unknown, but the deadly weapon in question could be assumed to be a knife of some sorts, possibly the iconic rail spike he was pictured with days before. The news first broke on Kiwi Farms and then spread quickly across social media. Many, upon hearing the news, assumed his arrest was related to his art, but as people learnt the real reason for his arrest, they were left even more confused. Every personal account of ShadMan describes him as incredibly shy and passive, so it must have been a pretty damn extreme situation if it led to him getting arrested. Before his first court appearance, he would actually be scheduled for a mental competency hearing, where the courts would deduce if he was sane enough to stand trial. Seeing as he would go on to appear in court, it's evidence he was found sane enough, but the fact that this was needed at all implies he was either in a questionable mental state when he was arrested, or that they just saw his general vibe and were like, yeah, let's get this guy certified. Can you tell I actually am a licensed therapist? Shad, after being deemed not a ding-dong loony by the state of California, was sent to jail to await his first appearance in court, with his bail set at $30,000. Despite his earlier bragging about how much he made, at this point most of his money was gone, as he was unable to pay his own bail. Just as all looked hopeless for Shad, a mysterious benefactor would come forward and pay for his bail. Who was this mystery financier? Soon after, Shad would post a couple images of him chilling in some very fancy-looking accommodation. The internet was now very aware of his arrest, and speculation began on where he was and why he was out of jail so soon. Wait a minute, look at that table. Hold on. If we cross-reference this image with one I took hiding in Mick's garden, oh my god, is that Smokey? Why, this house is none other than legendary ink and treasure haver Mick Lowers.
Who gives better foot massages, me or Veronica? Go! Don't fuck this up.
At this point in the timeline, this would be when Oni's ex Veronica had broken up with S-Mark and had briefly started dating Mick. Smokey, the woman here, still had feelings for Mick and was just knocking about his house. LS Mark was also still a frequent guest at Mick's, and apparently they all just got shit-faced and high all the time. It seemed Mick had been the one to fork over his money and pay for Shad's bail. Man, this is like Nightmare Blunt rotation.
I don't know who any of these people are. I've never heard of them before. But whoever bailed ShadMan, give him 20 years. I'd rather play Russian roulette with myself than to hang out with any of these individuals.
Like, fly me out to your Incan compound. I can party like the Cali guys do. While staying at Mix, Shad would resume activity on social media, albeit far more cautiously than before, likely due to anything he posted potentially being used against him in court. When asked about his arrest and upcoming court appearances, Shad seemed to deflect, boasting that he was in fact thriving. Yeah, sure, man. Shad would stay at Mix for the remainder of November through to December. However, at some point, things would sour between Mick and Shad. This could possibly be due to Shad's potential drug habits, or it could simply have been that Mick didn't want someone like Shad lurking about his nice Burbank home. Mick was the last Sleepy Cabin member who hadn't openly disowned Shad, and so he was likely facing mounting pressure from observers to distance himself from him. It's not known exactly when Shad moved out, but Mick would type Shad a letter where he wished him well but made it clear he was no longer welcome to stay. Shad clearly didn't take this news well. On the 20th of December, he posted a photo of himself in what appears to be a dilapidated porch, with the letter now heavily defaced and mostly illegible, with drawings and text added that referenced Hunt Down the Freeman, the critically panned Half-Life fan game where Mick had voiced the main protagonist.
You fucked up my face.
This is like the unironic version of that one meme where it's like, yo, my classmate. Even in this image here, one can observe a filthy jar being used as an ashtray, as well as multiple lighters and what appears to be a pretty heavy-duty knife. It seemed that Shad wasn't in any better place than before his arrest.
How did no one see this coming? Why would anyone want to work with someone like this in any way, shape, or form between 2020, 2021? Like, I get it if you did not know about his past and stuff in 2015, 16, 17, but in 2021, 2020, like, why would anyone want to be around this person? I wouldn't feel safe if me and ShadMan were 100 feet apart. You're not scared of him per se. It's one of those people that you don't want to have nearby, you know what I mean?
Moving into 2022, Shad's social media presence was now minimal, with only the occasional semi-lucid tweet and art that resembled that shit in Slender the 8 Pages. He would even retweet a news article by The Sun covering his arrest. And then he went dark for a year and a half. Curiously though, in April of 2022, Smokey would post a cosplay of the ShadMan character, and get somewhat confrontational with commenters who questioned her cosplaying such a controversial figure. Her defense of Shad would indicate that in some way they still had a friendship. In June of 2022, either due to him failing to make payments to the site provider, or of his own volition, Shadbase.com would come down. Over the following months, the only real updates the public received concerned his many court appearances, usually resulting in a continuance. His tweets became less schizophrenic, and a few posts seemed to imply that he was actually living in an apartment. How he was paying for everything is still unknown. In the summer of 2023, he would finally resume making art. A lot of the drawings seem to depict Belle Delphine, remember her? In a response to a tweet asking about the status of his website, Shad announced that he was no longer drawing for profit. Over the next year, Shad would continue to post art, albeit at a snail's pace, and with an online presence that was a fraction of what it once was. The most notable event of 2024 didn't even involve Shad directly. Instead, it revolved around one of his old lolly drawings being seen in the bedroom of Ava Tyson, who was at the time being investigated for inappropriate conduct with a minor. This sparked a brief revival in attempts to cancel anyone who had associated with Shad in the past, but since most people hadn't associated with him in any meaningful way for almost 7 years, any attempts at quote-unquote cancellation ended before they even really got started. And aside from the occasional update of a continuance from his court appearances that are still happening, that is the end of Shadai's story. For now, at least. For such a controversial figure, it's surprising that he didn't go out in a blaze of glory, like so many other lolcows and influencers who break under the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him ever coming back. Like, I'm sure he's always going to have a fan base or people that watch him for whatever reason, but I don't think he's ever gonna get a big collab or any collab at all because, well, everything we just looked at. Like, who in their right mind with a decent head on their shoulders would ever work with this guy? Privately or publicly? Privately, someone's gonna leak it, and publicly, you might as well kill your career yourself at that point. Tragic story for someone that was low-key kind of talented. It's sad to see wasted potential, and I do think this guy is a pedophile. I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. But anyways, with that said, the video is getting kind of long, so what do you guys think of the situation? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Jesus Christ, what a video. I'm recording this at 1 a.m. Yeah, hopefully I have no nightmares after this. Anyways, I'm out. Bye.